And we're back in third quarter.
That was fun. I had my dad on the show, and he was talking about some of the things that he enjoys doing and some of the things that it has inspired him over the years. So that was really good. I'll have to have him come back because if you were part of the first half of the show, you heard him talk about, towards the end, traveling, and he went on, I don't know, 40 or 50 cruises or 80 cruises, something like that. But he's been all over the world, and he's a man who loves to travel, and he's seen a lot. He went to India. He's been to Dubai, and he's gone to places that I'd love to go to. So we'll have to have him come back and share some more insight and some more knowledge about his journey in this thing called life. All right, so now we're going to talk about maybe money, your finances, maybe talk about retirement, the best strategy for saving for retirement, talk about different products, different vehicles, and also maybe just kind of help you to understand that it is a journey. It's not a sprint where you can get rich quick, but it takes time to accumulate wealth or to generate income that you can save over time. Preserve your wealth, preserve what you make or a percentage of it, and end up with a lifestyle that meets your expectations. So I have Jerry, my assistant, who has some questions that she's going to fire off, and I'll answer those to the best of my ability.
Yeah, hi everyone. These are questions that people are curious to know, and who the best than our financial advisor here, CEO of Retirement Choices, to answer these questions. So let's get started on the first question. How can individuals effectively save and invest for retirement?
Well, my mother told me when I was young that, you should save 10% of your income for retirement. So if you're making $100,000 a year, you should save $10,000. If you're making $50,000, you should save $5,000 a year. This is just pure savings for retirement, right? Maybe if you can save 20%, you'll save more over a shorter and a longer period of time. But it's about maybe being a little uncomfortable. Some people don't want to be uncomfortable, so what they'll do is they'll save, $100 a month or $200 a month. If you do the math, $100 a month is $1,200 a year. In 10 years, that's $12,000. In 20 years, that's $24,000. So do you want $24,000 in your retirement account, or do you want $240,000 or $500,000 in your retirement account? So the best thing to do is when you get started working, that you save money in your own account, just a savings that may be a little bit liquid, not like an ATM or something where you can access it, all the time, or for non-emergencies. But saving money in a savings account is the best way to get started. If your employer offers a 401k or a 403b or a 457 or a traditional IRA, then take advantage of those qualified programs. Those are actually called qualified accounts or qualified money, which allow you to use pre-tax dollars to fund your retirement. So it also lowers your taxable income, which lowers your tax liability, and it helps you to save for retirement.
Okay. And when should people start saving for retirement?
As soon as they can. So if they start working at 20 years old or 18 or 25, it doesn't matter. You want to start saving for retirement on day one. So as soon as you have income, put some of that money away. if you're not employed by a corporation or a company that offers a 401k or a 403b, then I would simply suggest that you open up maybe a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs you can open up with after-tax dollars so that when you pull the money out down the road, the money is tax-free. So I'd say start saving as soon as you start working, or even sooner than that if you can.
Okay. Would you recommend buying stocks?
Well, if you can afford to lose money, then yes, buy stocks. Obviously, stocks have a lot of volatility, so you can actually lose money in purchasing stocks, but you can also make money. And so I think I was listening to something the other day. It was like over the last 10 years, I think one of the Dow Jones average, it increased by 10%. NASDAQ might have been 20%, but that's over a long period of time. So if you have money that you can risk, stocks may be a good part of your portfolio. Maybe it's just 5% or 10%, but don't expect to invest in stocks and not lose money, or not expect to go on a roller coaster ride. I have some stocks now. I have maybe 15 different stocks, but over the last 30 to 60 days, it's been flat. I haven't made any money. I haven't lost any money, which is kind of frustrating because you could put, $100,000 in your stock account, or 10,000 or 1,000, and it's like being in Vegas where you're gambling and you're at the blackjack table, or you're at, you're playing poker or something, and you played for 4 hours and you end up with the same amount that you started with. So with stocks, you have to be really patient, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for people that can't afford to lose the money they invest in stocks. But over a long period of time, stocks should be a part of your portfolio.
What about Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin,
yeah,
that's right.
I'd stay away from Bitcoin. I don't have any clients. Matter of fact, I don't do exotic investments with my clients. Bitcoin is still unknown to some degree. I mean, some people have made millions and some people have lost millions. But if you're, working every day, you have your own business, or you're just an employee, trying to invest in Bitcoin is probably not the best course of action because of the risk that you're taking. And there's so many uncertainties. Bitcoin 5 years from now may be the standard, but for now, it's too risky for, the average investor or the average person that wants to have some security. There's no security there. You could go up, it could go up $100 or $1,000 in a month. It can go down, 10%, 20%, or 50%. And so I don't have the stomach for that, and I wouldn't encourage anybody that I know, especially none of my clients, to invest in Bitcoin.
What do you do if you inherit money?
Ooh, boy. You save it, right? So we have clients that have inherited money. It depends on how they inherit it. Is it through assets like real estate, or is it through retirement accounts? Is it life insurance? But if you inherit money and you're, 40 years old, that will give you maybe a boost or a jump start to your own retirement. So if you inherit money, I would suggest that you put it into an account that gives you a competitive return. Even if it's 5 or 6 or 7%, I'd rather have 5, 6 or 7% than to lose 5, 6 or 7%. So take the money that you've inherited, and obviously somebody cared about you enough, they loved you perhaps, and wanted to see you do well, or give you some kind of push start, or at least enhance your ability to grow your funds as you move towards retirement, or as you move towards purchasing a home or having a family. So with inherited money, I won't say it's newfound money because somebody worked hard. Maybe it's your mother or your aunt or your grandfather or your grandmother, but use the money wisely. Maybe it came to you in an IRA, so you can inherit someone's IRA, and you won't touch that until maybe age 59 and a half. So let it grow. Maybe you put it into a fixed indexed annuity, or you put it into a product where you don't lose money, but you're always looking at trying to, generate, conservatively 5 to 8, maybe some years 10%, or some years even higher with no risk of loss.
Should you focus on paying off debt before saving?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think so, because if you're, saddled with debt, you're paying interest on that debt. So, you could be paying on a consumer credit card, you'd be paying 24%. So, if you're paying credit card interest, it's hard to really save money, because you could be spending $300, $400, $500 a month in interest, and that's not even including things like car payments or mortgages. So, I understand mortgage is a 30-year commitment, and maybe you take advantage of the tax break or lowering your taxable income by the mortgage interest. But things like credit card debt or consumer debt, you want to try to stay away from it, first of all. Try to avoid using credit cards to pay for small items or big items. I have a client that he told me he hates paying interest. And I love what he said about that, because he's very smart. He has a house that is paid for. He owns his house free and clear, and he's about 52 years old. So can you imagine the mortgage interest he's saving by not having a mortgage payment or having a home that is free and clear? So to answer your question, yes, try to stay away from debt or paying high interest rates. You want to save consistently, but it's hard to save when you're giving a financial institution, 20, 24% interest every year.
Okay. In response to major life changes, how should individuals adjust their retirement savings strategies?
Say that one more time, Jerry.
In response to major life changes, how should individuals adjust their retirement saving strategies?
Well, it just depends on what changes you're going through, right? If you have parents that need your support, or parents that need some financial assistance, they're older, maybe they have some home care issues or some health care issues, or you have kids. It just depends on the situation, but you certainly want to adjust your savings objectives based on your expenses and your lifestyle. So the answer is really, it just depends on the situation. But no matter what the situation is, you want to try to save as much money as you possibly can. Because one day you're going to retire, or hopefully want to retire, and if you have money in your account, the more money you have, the better your retirement will be, especially if you're healthy. If you're not healthy, then it's kind of tough to have $1 million at age 70 and you're not healthy. You can't travel, perhaps, but certainly, saving more money always is the answer to growing a good financial, nest egg.
Okay. What are the potential benefits and drawbacks of delaying retirement for the purpose of increasing retirement savings?
Wow. Well, the drawback is you're still working, right? So some people always look at, making more money, and so they can perhaps afford to retire at age 60, but they decide to continue to work because they want 100% of their salary. So when you retire, some people get 50% of their salary, or they get 60% of their pre-retirement income, or 70%, and some people want to achieve 80, 90, and 100%. So they end up working longer, but the disadvantage is you're going to work, and you're still working for somebody, assuming that you're not an entrepreneur, you're not self-employed. So the disadvantage is now you're getting older, and you have less time, and maybe you have less ability to travel. Who wants to continue to work until they're 70 years old, and then they retire and they can't travel because they got bad knees or a bad hip? So, you want to try to retire as soon as you possibly can, right? So if you can design a retirement plan, or you can be on the path to retire at age 55, that's a great goal. But that's, that requires that you be pretty diligent with your savings, and really look at your numbers, understand your numbers, understanding the benefits of compounding interest, but understanding the use of pre-tax dollars to help supplement your retirement.
Okay. What options are available for individuals who may have missed out on opportunities to save for retirement earlier in their careers?
Ooh, well, put away as much as you can. That's really a tough nut to crack. If you have, if you haven't saved when you were 30 or 40, and you start saving at 55, you have a shorter, time, a shorter. You have a shorter horizon. So if you started saving $500 a month at age 30 versus saving $500 a month at 50, where will you be at age 60? At age 30, if you save $500 per month, I'm just going to throw it out without doing the math. I mean, you could conceivably have $250,000 at age 60. But if you start at 50, what is that? 500, 6,000, 60,000, maybe you have $70,000 at retirement. So there's a big disadvantage to waiting to save for retirement. Now, obviously, if you were 30 years old and you bought a house, and you bought the house for $400,000, and now it's worth $1 million, that's $600,000 equity. So you did pretty well. How will you use that money, or how will you use that equity to help provide for a safe and comfortable retirement? And some people, they look at their homes, and they look at those homes as great assets, and they want to pass those over to their children. So they never use the equity in their homes. I'm kind of 50-50 on that. I think people who have homes and they have equity should use that equity to enhance their lifestyles, and also if they have medical concerns, they can get the best care and the best treatment because they have equity. And so use your equity, but again, maybe buying a house at an early age is a smart thing to do, because now you've invested in something that is a major asset that grows. Typically, real estate all over the world, or certainly in California, tends to appreciate. If you bought a property in Baldwin Hills or Leimert Park or View Park or Ladera or Carson or Hawthorne or Inglewood, over the last 10 years, you might have seen a 15, 20, maybe even 30% growth.
What are some common myths and misconceptions about retirement planning that need to be addressed?
Well, I have a lot of clients that they get information from their coworkers or their colleagues or their peers, and their peers don't know much about retirement planning because they're still working. Not that they don't understand the benefits of the pension or some of the products that are offered by the employer, but people tend to think that it's easy to prepare for retirement because you have so much time. And so when you're 30 years old, you think about retirement, but you say, I got 30 more years before I retire, so at some point down the road, I'll be able to save more money, or I can be more aggressive. But obviously, they run out of time. So don't take advice from your peers or your colleagues unless you know they know what they're talking about. Use a financial advisor, use somebody that understands money, use somebody that has a history of helping people to prepare for retirement, so that you don't get caught up with employers. Well, it used to be, most employees had pensions. Nowadays, it's very difficult to get a pension. You have school districts, you have government agencies, and some corporations offer pensions, but 9 out of 10 companies now that you would consider working for don't offer you a pension. They may offer you a 401k, but not a pension. So with pensions, some people think they're going to get 100% of their pre-retirement salary, which is not the case unless they work for 30 or 40 years. So you should know and be clear about what your pay factors are, or what your retirement income will look like once you separate from your employer. And, by all means, do your research. Don't allow somebody to tell you or give you bad information. Some people, some clients I've had, they talk about this rule of 80, and they think that if they have a combination of 80 years of service or the age 80, well, you can have 50 years, you can be 50 years old and 30 years of service, that equals 80. Well, they think they get 100% of their pre-retirement salary when they get to this rule of 80, and it's not true. So be very careful in terms of understanding your numbers and making sure that you're not listening to the wrong people.
How do I know if I am saving enough for my future financial goals?
Well, it depends on what kind of lifestyle you want to have, right? So if you want to have a basic lifestyle and you want to have a basic home, and that's all relative, right? Maybe the home you're thinking about is worth, $400,000, and you're not thinking about, traveling extensively. Maybe you're just thinking about, watching a lot of Netflix when you retire, or going to the neighborhood park, or going to a senior citizen event. Maybe you go to the local movies. I don't know, but it really depends on your desires. What do you want to do when you retire? How do you want to live your life? Do you want to be a big baller, or do you want to just, end up having a basic retirement existence? And so if you want to do big things and spend a lot of money, then you got to figure out how to get a lot of money. That's either through savings or through having a business that generates a lot of income. And what I find is a lot of people, they focus on the expense, like how much does it cost? And some people say it costs too much. Well, it's relative. Typically, when people say it costs too much, is because their income is not enough. So again, it's all relative. The more income you have, the more options you have. But certainly, if you don't save enough, you can make $500,000 a year and still not save enough to allow you to retire, maybe before 60. So having a combination of consistent savings and just understanding what your retirement objectives are. What do you want to do when you retire? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? I think that's so important in terms of calculating how much you should put away at age 20, 30, 40, 50, or even 60. And I go back to the premise, you want to save as much money as you possibly can without taking a whole lot of risk. We go back to stocks. Yeah, maybe in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you can buy stock, because if you lose money, you have time to recuperate. But if you lose money at age 50 or 55 and you're 5 years away from retirement, you may have to work longer in order to get that money back or to get back on track. And see, people never talk about what they've lost. Have you ever heard anybody brag about, they've lost, $10,000, $20,000 in the stock market? They just don't do that. They tell you how much money they made, but they don't subtract the money they lost. So if somebody's bragging about they made $100,000 in the stock market, and I ask them a question, well, so how much did you lose? And they'd say, I haven't thought about that. But maybe they lost $120,000, and so they're still $20,000 behind. So again, it's real relative. Find a good competitive product that you can invest in over time. You can switch products, by the way. You can go from a fixed index annuity to another fixed index annuity with another carrier that may offer bonuses or may offer some kind of indexing strategies that are unique, that show a lot of growth over a 5 or 10 year period of time.
Should I have a living trust?
Oh boy, that's a great question. So a living trust is certainly advisable, especially if you have kids or if you have property. You want to have the living trust be the owner of that property so that you can avoid probate, right? So But if you don't have any assets, it's not really necessary to have a living trust. But if you have, retirement accounts, you have, art, you have gold, or you have, assets that you want to pass on to your heirs without, going through probate, or you want to be very intentional about who gets your assets. If you want to be very intentional about who gets your assets, or if you want to really kind of identify who's going to get what, then a living trust is a must. And then again, just if you have real estate, you want to make sure that your heirs get your property, or they inherit your property without going through probate, because that could cost a lot of money and be a big inconvenience. And it also avoids, fighting from family members. Somebody said Mama wanted to give me the car, or Mama wanted to give me the couch. With a living trust, you can specifically identify what you want to go to who. You got a favorite child, or you got a child that has some challenges with drugs, or has some issues mentally, maybe there's a special need issue with one of your children. You want to have a living trust to specifically identify what's going to happen to your assets upon your passing.
Okay. And lastly, what guidance can you
Showing
offer on navigating the multitude of investment options available?
Well, so it gets complicated, right? Because there's so many different investment vehicles, there's so many different choices, there's so many different assets, there's so many different ways to make money, and there's so many different ways to lose money. So, I don't want to, tell people to do something exotic. I want to tell people to do something that makes sense, that you can do over time, because that's the key, having time to build your portfolio by making prudent investments and staying away from things that will create losses, or just reduce your overall net worth. Let's focus on things that continue to increase your net worth and to grow your assets, and be smart about it and be safe about it. All right, so that being said, I think we're going to wrap this up. It was a pleasure doing this podcast. This is the second podcast that we've hosted. So thank you for tuning in to the Retirement Choices podcast, where we're dedicated to empowering you with the knowledge and insights you need to make informed decisions about your retirement journey. Remember, your choices today shape your tomorrow. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep making those retirement choices count. Take care, and we'll catch you on the next episode. This is JP Hamlet signing off. God bless.